Hi everyone, this is Lisa Grace coming to you with another episode of the Teach Middle East podcast. I was just offline talking to Katrina, working out her many hats, but I'm happy to have Katrina Mankani on the podcast with me today. And I'm going to make my best attempt at introducing the lady that wears many hats. So she is the director of Jumeirah International Nurseries, but she's also a board member of Fortis Education. She is also, see, I told you there are several hats here. She's also the Director of Positive Education and Innovation at Fortis Education. Did I nail them all, Katrina?
You did, Lisa. Thank you very
Welcome to
much.
the
And it's
podcast.
such a pleasure to be with you today on the podcast. I'm sure you're the lady that wears even more hats and definitely knows how to get the best out of the people that come from her podcast.
I try. The listeners know I try because I love a good chat and I love a good chat about education. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you today about innovations in educational leadership. Wow, what a mouthful. Let me start with a little bit of history though, Katrina. What got you into education? What's your leading into this role? Where did it start?
Well, first of all, it was the passion to do something good. And I mean, it sounds very hallmarky, but that was all it was about. So I actually got my master's in public administration. I wanted to work in the government, but the life brought me far away from my country of birth, and I ended up here in Dubai. And at a very young age, I came across the Jumeirah International Nursery, where I have actually walked my way up from a teaching assistant to a teacher to a nursery manager, and then from 2015, I'm the managing director. And So that was my journey. Meanwhile, I also studied a lot about students' well-being, mental health, and value-based education, and that helped me to grow the. In the beginning, was called Education and Human Values in one of our schools in Region International School, and then it all kind of graduated into positive education, which is now the ethos of Fortis Education.
Talk to me a little bit about positive education and why we ought to be paying attention to that at the moment.
Well, there are many reasons. So, first of all, positive education. What is it? I mean, you can define it in different ways. The way we define it at our schools is that it's a science of education at its best, and it's when you put the well-being of the child at the heart of education. So, we as teachers need to remember we don't teach math or science or English. We teach a student, and that student needs to be taught holistically. So first you need to build a rapport with them. You need to understand, their predicament. You need to know how to react to their successes and failures in a way that build more resilience and trust rather than just mere compliance. So positive education is about like this parallel stream of extra attention that teachers and leaders need to pay to.
Yeah, I'm actually quite interested in understanding the effects that you have seen in your schools with the implementation of positive education. Like, where have you seen the biggest changes?
Well, the changes are massive, actually. An interesting thing is that the changes are fast and slow at the same time. They're small and incrementally big at the same time as well. So let me just give you examples. So first of all Forts education teachers have to go through positive education training. All our school teachers, when they arrive to our schools for 3 days, they spend their time during induction with me and my team. And we tell them, take your teacher's hat off. Let's talk about you as people. So first, let's see how can you implement PERMA, basically is the theory of well-being into your life. How do you build positive emotions in your life? How do you build relationship? What is your engagement level? What is your accomplishment and how you promote it in your life? What's your meaning and purpose? And then when we make them think about themselves, we basically say, now, how do you bring it into your classroom? right? And we have seen the change, first of all, in the people that come to us when this is the first interaction that they have with the school. Uh, that makes them feel very comfortable about their choice of a workplace. And then as they enter into the day-to-day work, there is a whole um, there is an atmosphere of support, uh, of everybody in striving towards this, right? So that's in terms of teachers. And yes, sometimes we do it right, sometimes we do it wrong. And let's just face it, everybody comes with a different baseline. Somebody is just by nature more grateful than others, somebody's more loving than others, and that's just fine. And the key here is just to accept that we are all different, and build on each other's strengths rather than weaknesses. And I guess one of the benefits of this mindset in our school, that we constantly talk about strengths. What's your strengths? What's my strengths? Let's build on each other's strengths rather than focus on what we are doing wrong. Let's correct what we are doing wrong and remind ourselves that failure is a first attempt in learning. It's not the end. And with the students, well, we've seen a lot of we've seen a lot of things. First of all, because we start teaching them about this from a very young age, we tend to have children who are more self-aware. So we have students at the age of 5 and 6 who can explain to you what self-control is, and what perseverance is, which is great. Now, as they grow, of course, they go through their own turbulations and turbulence, and they're changing, they're growing into teenagers. But overall, we have a very positive, supportive environment in the school. We don't have behavior policy. We have restorative justice policy, and that policy is underpinned not by the school rules, but by our code of character and conduct, which was actually written by students themselves, and which answers the question: if we were all to live the happy life, which has positive emotions, accomplishment, engagement, relationship, meaning and purpose, and health, how would it look, feel, and sound in school? And the students themselves kind of wrote this. So for good relationship, we need to treat others as we want to be treated. We need to blah, blah, blah. And so all of this they've written. And this is all over the school. It's our code of character that everybody pledges to abide to. So, however, this atmosphere is it's intangible. So it needs constant reinforcement. So, if we talk about leadership, leaders must reinforce it through their everyday interaction with everybody, with their teams, and with students, with parents. So it's a lot of work actually to keep this afloat.
So let me get practical with you then, Katrina,
Yeah,
because let's say a student's behavior is not up to scratch.
yeah.
How does this restorative justice practice come into play? Like, what does it look like if a child is persistently misbehaving? What happens?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first of all, persistent misbehavior has various reasons. So we always say that, if somebody's persistently showing the behavior that is deviating from the norm, right? We need to ask ourselves as teachers, where is the need or where is the strength? So there must be one of two. It's either the strength is not met, right? Let's say the student is bored in class, or there must be different reasons for this. There can be a strength here, or there is a need. The student feels unsupported. So we need to address one of the two. If it's not the need and the strengths, or if the misbehavior is not happening in the school, like in the classroom environment, but let's say on the break with another student and there is a constant fight, right? Then we need to again go back to, okay, how do we teach these young adults, if we're talking about teenagers, to actually reconcile their differences? So practically, let me tell you how it works in practice. So restorative justice is built on 4 R's. respect, responsibility, repair, and reintegration. So, of course, we teach them to respect each other, and we will talk a lot about it. Of course, we tell them that for every disrespect comes responsibility that is cause and effect. But the key for restorative justice is the reparation. And the reparation is basically the punishment. So there is no punishment per se. There is a reparation. And let's say simply, if the student broke a table, it's very easy. You repair a table. But if they broke relationship, what do they repair? That's where the restorative conversations come in. So I'll give you an example. So let's talk about, I had a case last year with two girls that were actually troubling each other for the past 1.5 years. And that all started in primary. Now they're in secondary. It's year 7. It's September. It started again. So myself and a head of year met them. And there was a whole restorative conversation plan that was built on taking their differences onto a third story. So I'll give you an example what I did. I said, ladies, it looks like there's a problem that both of you are facing. And that problem is your common misunderstanding. Do you agree with that? Right? So you kind of bring them to a common problem because both of them don't like what's happening. And then you ask each one of them to describe what they're facing and how they're feeling. And it's very interesting because when one of them was describing, and when she does this is how I feel, the other one was looking and almost in surprise and in disbelief because she didn't think that that's how she was feeling. And each one was given a word, and then each one that was given the chance to suggest the reparation and the future steps. And what they've agreed to each other that the most repairing thing for them would be to just avoid each other. All right. And how to avoid each other, we were going through examples. So if you meet each other in the corridor, how are you going to avoid each other? Right? If somebody invites you to the same party, how are you going to avoid each other? And I was asking them to answer these questions and decide together. So in the end, they kind of walked in, and though they went separate ways, they kind of worked out through a solution together.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking, how are they avoiding each other in the same school? Like a separate entrance, or like what is going on there? But I love the fact that they came up with the solutions themselves. And yeah, thank you so much. That was a really good example. I want to talk a little bit about the well-being piece to your role. Well-being is such a, how do I put this without offending all the well-being warriors? It's such a hairy-fairy concept when it comes to schools because there's such a misunderstanding in the space as to what schools can do to help to increase well-being, especially among staff. Some think it's chocolates and donuts, which I'm like, you're giving them sugar. That is just not
Yeah.
it. Some think it's all these little notes in my cubby hole, hairy fairy. What are your thoughts on what drives well-being in schools?
I'm actually with you on this. I don't think that donut makes anybody feel better. They just get some heartburn after that and guilt feeling. Um, so um, the we need to go back to again the science of well-being. What really gives people the well-being? So first of all, understanding your meaning and purpose. What are you here for? What do you wake up every morning for? Why do you come to school? Do you believe? So when we do the training with the teachers, I ask them to think through their life journey, um, get the strengths from all the crucibles they had on the way, like basically the moments that made them stronger, and then write their mission statement, and then compare it to the mission statement of Fortis Education, and say, do they meet? And if they meet, then you're in the right place. You're in the right place. You just need to continue living your mission statement inside our school and inside the mission statement. And remind yourself every time about this. Whenever you wake up and you don't know why you need to go to work, you remind yourself about your mission statement. So mission and vision, mission and purpose. Next, relationship. How do we promote relationship between each other? So the people in their department, are they supporting each other? The line managers, are they supporting? Do teachers know who to lean in? Do they know who to go and talk to when they need help? Right? Next, accomplishment. We don't have to all, become the best teacher of the year in Dubai to feel accomplished. How do we make each other feel accomplished? Right? How do we celebrate? So those notes, they can work when they actually are on point, right? So they're for something. So you can create a gratitude wall. You can create a certain mechanism where like what we have in school, we have like a gratitude service. So if you feel that somebody has done something that you'd want to celebrate, then you put it on that survey, and you actually, or we have a culture actually where people by themselves decide to post gratitude message to the whole school. So like I want to say that today that person helped me so much, blah blah blah, and it happens in the culture. Then so engagement. What is engagement actually? So by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi flow theory says that people go into the engagement channel, the flow channel, when the challenge is a little bit higher than the skill, just a little bit. So if the challenge is so high that people are very anxious, but when the challenge is so low, then they become bored. So it's like it's the same thing in the classroom. It's differentiation. So how do we as leaders, if we talk about innovative leaders, how do we as leaders understand how do we differentiate? Who do we give more support than others? And then we go to the last one, the positive emotions. Positive emotions, Barbara Fredrickson talks about broad and build. So broaden your understanding of what is a positive emotion and what kind of makes you feel good, and then build the frequency of it. So maybe it's not about donuts, but it's about some kind of fun. So what I noticed that when in St. Mark's School, we started switching on music on Fridays after the students, like while the students were going home, people were dancing in the corridors. Small thing, but it builds the frequency of your positive emotions. And then we started changing the songs so that people would be like, oh, what's the song today? And then we asked people to suggest their songs, right? So small things can create a massive difference if we look at the science of what makes people happy. But it's definitely not just donuts.
Yeah. And I also think an atmosphere of safety, safety to say what one thinks, safety to know that they are being heard, and also the respect of one's time, where they know someone will not infringe on their personal time or space. These things lead people to feel well. If I know that I will not be bombarded at 5 p.m. on a Friday with crazy emails from school, I will feel better. That helps my well-being. So things of that nature.
Lisa, this is a very interesting topic for me because we use Microsoft Teams, right? And what we have learned that we have to put the responsibility for not being bombarded to the person who doesn't want to be bombarded. Because let me give you an example. There are some teachers who have additional responsibilities in the school, or who have children, and and they prefer actually to work at 8 o'clock in the evening, right? Now, Microsoft Teams just recently had a function where you can delay the message, just recently, and email had it before. So that was a etiquette that if you're sending an email, choose the time when you want it to be delivered. With the Teams, you can do it now. But before, we used to say that if you don't want to be bombarded after 5 p.m., Microsoft Teams has a setting that says After 5 p.m., switch off the notification. But you as a individual, you switch off notification because it suits your work kind of rules. But I cannot prescribe the rules of work to those people who want to work after hours, because they feel less anxious next morning when they actually open their computer at 8 o'clock while they're drinking nightcap. Right? So that helps with, what I'm saying is, it helps to put the responsibility on each individual for their own well-being,
Yes.
rather than make it everybody's responsibility.
Yes, I like that. But also, I just think institutional parameters and expectations, because I might turn off my notifications and go in the next morning and someone says to me in a stern voice, "Did you not see the email I sent to you at
Yes.
7:45
Yes.
p.m.?"
You're absolutely right, Lisa. So what we are doing is that we have, many years ago, we set this kind of, we set that culture that don't expect to receive a reply after 5 p.m. Actually, after 4:30 for teachers, after 5 for leaders. Don't expect to receive, unless it's something urgent. And if it's something urgent, don't do it on Teams, do it on WhatsApp. That's our culture. But if it's not urgent, you can send it. But if you receive it at 7 p.m., don't be offended that it came to you at 7 p.m.
But the
because you're not
expectation
expected
is,
to check.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. You see, I'm sticklish for little things like that, because when people talk to me about well-being, because I taught for so long and I've worked in so many schools and I've led schools, I know that the theory of well-being and the practice thereof are far apart in many cases. So I'm very kind of sticklish. So I hope you understand. Let's put your innovation hat on now, Katrina, and let's talk management, not management, so sorry. Let's talk leadership and innovation. Innovation is very messy. How do we maintain a stable learning environment while still looking to innovate and make those changes that are needed, especially when it comes to things like education technology or new methodologies? How do we maintain stability and innovation, that crazy balance?
It goes back to setting the stage for your ethos again from the very beginning. So, hey, we're innovative school, we're a learning school. We learn and we get into learning pit. And that's also normal. And we are going to step into this vulnerability of sitting in the pit and not knowing how to do it. Or and it will be messy. But then we will prototype, we will ideate, we will prototype, we will fail, and then we will come up with the final version that we may need to reiterate again after some time, but it's all normal. So I guess normalizing that innovation is messy and it's never ending. And we feel it now very much with AI. So the way we went around it is that we took a lot of our leaders from various phases and departments, and even from head office, and we sent them for a very long AI in-person training. And then after that, we said, okay, now we tinker with this. And we tinker in our smaller groups, and let's see where we go with it. And so we ended up with a pretty good structure after 1 year of tinkering and being in this mess of innovation. So we are now in evaluation state, and then we will reiterate how it works. But the world is moving so fast, and unfortunately, education is always behind. Teachers today know less about AI than the students. So we need to catch up if we want to be relevant and if we really want to prepare our students to some degree.
Yeah.
That's
As
how
much
I
as
see
we
it.
try to be at the cutting edge. The cutting edge is moving faster than I think we can. I think just because education has historically been a little bit latent in how it responds to change, we are going to have to double down our efforts, especially in this AI age, to be able to be even on par, let alone ahead of our students. In your experience, though, what are some of the most effective strategies leaders can adopt to empower their staff to take ownership of their roles in driving innovation in school? It's a mouthful, but I want to know, how can leaders take that empowerment to their staff to allow them to feel safe and to take ownership of driving that innovation, because it can't go anywhere unless the staff drive it.
Well, I always say, think about what is in it for them. Will this innovation make their work faster, more efficient, or more clunky and slower? If it's more clunky and slower, don't expect them to innovate in this or use in it. They will just kill it. And that's normal. That's human nature. So, how do we make it? How do we sell it to them so that it it is beneficial for them? So either you remove something else and say, okay, if you do this kind of system, then you don't need to do that kind of system. And even if for some time you are running two different systems, it's fine. And we did that many years ago when I don't know if you're aware about Century Tech. It was a very nice AI system. So when we were testing it, we just said to some teachers, you don't need to evaluate students based on our normal system if you use Century Tech and you do your evaluation there, right? And then slowly we build our evaluation differently. But that is how we engage the first adopters and those who were testing it and bringing their feedback to us.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we think about empowering our staff as well, I often wonder how much autonomy the staff have on choosing their own learning opportunities, because a lot of it tends to sometimes in some schools be very prescriptive. You will take this course, you will go to this event, rather than the staff coming and going, I would like to take this course because it fits with my mission and vision and who I am and my purpose as an educator. Or I'd like to attend this conference because there are these presenters and I would love to hear their viewpoints on X or Y. And so I wonder, especially in your schools, what opportunities are there for staff to choose their own learning opportunities?
Yeah, so in both San Mark School and Regent International School, we do both. We, of course, prescribe certain trainings that everybody needs to be aware of. Um, but there is also an opportunity for internal CPD, which is by choice, and we run parallel streams. And then we do send people for the other training, I mean, the outside training, which is again by their choice. They just need to, it depends on where, but there is an opportunity to choose. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what's the advantage of doing both? Like, what's the advantage of having that internal stuff and that external stuff in your estimation?
Well, every school, I'm sure, has its own way, right? Its own way of learning and managing learning and managing many things. For us, for example, it's positive education. So we need to update people in our ways. So they need to know how we do things. So it's not in all the non-negotiables. And then, of course, everybody is on a different path in terms of, or a different stage of their learning. So whatever makes sense for them and whatever their interest is also respected.
Yeah. So we've talked innovation, we've talked well-being, we've talked leadership. Let's talk about you for a second. What are you excited about right now in education?
Oh, I'm actually excited and scared at the same time because I wonder how our world is going to change in very short period of time. What's going to happen in 5 years? Before I could I could at least draw an outline. Now I don't know. And what I question myself as an educator, um, what skills really matter in school? So I think I'm in more privileged position here because for many, many years I've been a promoter of positive education. And I still think that this is one of the most valuable skill that we can teach children, how to take care of their well-being and how to understand themselves as humans. Um, that is going to stay. So the resilience, the adaptability, so all the personal skills that we're teaching in our schools, they will stay even if everything else fails. But what else? I mean, how quick will the exam boards um, respond to the current situation? I mean, how will the university admission change? So that is things that keep me up at night.
I didn't want them to keep you up. I want to know it. I hope they're not making you lack sleep at
No,
all.
I tell you, Lisa, I was last week. I was in Harvard. I was in Harvard doing the program in, perils and promise of technology. And the whole course was just about AI. And what I understood in the end of the week is just one simple thing. Even the Harvard professors don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. Right? So we all can just put very fair predictions. So we just see how it unfolds.
Wow. What are you reading currently? That's my last question. I love to ask this question because when I talk to smart people, I want to know what they're reading.
I'm one of those people that reads multiple books at the same time, based based on my mood. And recently, I'm actually deep into podcasts. I find them super interesting. I just finished Elon Musk's biography, the last one. It's fascinating how one human can bring so much innovation in the world. Fascinating. And actually, what it takes, all the hard work. And yes, he's a Merrick, but wow, what he created is incredible. Um, and the other book that I have finished recently was Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the podcast, Katrina.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful to talk to you. And thank you for all your thought provoking questions.
You're welcome.